Today we're going to talk about sneakers. I like them myself. Sometimes I wear them on my feet. Sometimes I wear boots, but as long as they offer the right amount of support, depending on the brand. No, I'm just kidding. We're actually not going to talk about shoes. We are going to talk about the movie Sneakers. And in this film, it's not sneakers as in shoes because they sneak, so they're sneakers. So that's because during the film they do try to a couple of times use that as a slang term, but it never really lands and it didn't really catch on. But the film's called Sneakers. It's a 1992 crime drama heist type of film, caper film. It does kind of lean towards kind of a hacker type of film. Robert Redford plays a kind of a hacker type of character, but they're working for a company that they check on integrity of surveillance systems, it's like, for instance, the first time you see them, they go into a bank and they rob the bank, but then they bring the money back to the people that hired them, and they're like, your bank sucks, man, you gotta up that security. But anyway, in this video I'm going to talk about this new Kino Lorber 4K UHD release. We're going to talk about the transfer. I'm going to show you the packaging, and I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the film. I saw this film when it first came out in the movie theater. I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the film then and my updated thoughts on it. And if you would do me a favor and go ahead and like this video. I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. Now, I think one of the biggest draws to this film then, and of course still now, is the cast. And they were so impressed with their cast that they put all their names on the front cover like really big. It's like, whoa, it's got Robert Redford in it, and Sidney Poitier, Dan Aykroyd, Ben Kingsley, so forth. I was drawn to this probably from some of the cast members I would have recognized, like Dan Aykroyd, of course. I'm a big fan of Dan Aykroyd, especially then. And also River Phoenix. He's the youngest member of the Sneakers pack here, the Sneakers group. I knew him from Stand By Me. I'm a big fan of Stand By Me. I was then as well. And he plays one of the main characters, one of the four main characters in the film. Unfortunately for River Phoenix, this was one of his last films. He only made a couple more after this. He died the following year after this was released. But that was a real bummer. I think he really had something going here, and he would have, his brother Joaquin Phoenix is really famous now still, but he would have kept doing really cool stuff like this. And he was the youngest member of this ensemble of great actors. Now, Dan Aykroyd's another member of this that was kind of stood out to me. Typically known for his comedic, and he plays a little comedic here, but you can tell they kind of toned him down a little bit, so he doesn't stand out as being hilarious. But he's got some moments in it. This film also has David Strathair in it. He plays, for some reason, he's a blind member of the group, apparently him being blind doesn't stop him from being useful. In fact, sometimes he's able to do things that other people can't do. But I really do like the group of sneakers here. The people who have the most dialogue is Robert Redford and Sidney Poitier's character, but they both play really well off of each other in the film. There's some criticism. I didn't think of it at the time, but I guess there was some criticism about maybe the characters being too old. Like they're looking for something along the lines of say the film, which came out a few years later, Hackers, where it was like all the main characters were like younger people, like about the age of River Phoenix's character in Sneakers. So they were thinking maybe this is a young people's movie, but it does lend itself to that. It's kind of on the cuff of this because they still got these older actors, and it's still a caper film. So they do have that kind of caper film mentality to it, and espionage going on in the film. So it does have those aspects to it. When I first saw it, I didn't think that they were too old. I didn't register to me. But seeing Hackers, now Hackers is probably the way that, and this is the way it did play like just a few years later, like younger people. Now I want to mention a couple other films here that I feel are tech thrillers that kind of. One that came before this, now this is a Shout Factory release of War Games with Matthew Broderick and Daphne Coleman and Ali Sheedy. But this happened about a decade before. But Sneakers happened right before, Hackers, and then The Net with Sandra Bullock. So it kind of, I believe that Sneakers was a bit of a precursor to those other films. So it kind of like led the way for those other films. When I did see it in the theater initially, I was fairly entertained by it. I did like it. I enjoyed the film. In fact, I liked it so much it probably came out about a year or two later on cable, and I watched it again on cable several more times. It's one that I saw so many times when I was younger at that age that I remember it pretty good. When I was watching it this time, I did remember most of the stuff in the film pretty good. I felt it kind of loses momentum a little bit near the end. It kind of maybe loses a little bit of credibility during like the last part of the film, which I'm not going to dive into too deep. But I will say, in general, I do like the initial setup. I like the chemistry between the cast members. I think that is fantastic. I think that the cast here is great. I mean, it's most of the film works really well. I think some with Ben Kingsley is great in his kind of a villain character. He was the character played by Robert Redford's old roommate, and he ended up accidentally like that guy got arrested, but Robert Redford's character escaped and changed his identity. But he's kind of got a little bit of a personal vendetta against him. He's kind of the villain in it, and he doesn't have a lot of screen time. He has some in the middle and a pretty good bit near the end of it. Some of it is some of that part in general is kind of overdone, I think. But I think most of what I saw here, it did kind of seem pretty much the same as the way I remembered it, even though I did see a few holes in there that I didn't see initially. But let's go ahead and take a look at this physical packaging, and then we're going to talk about that 4K transfer. Now this does have a pretty nice slipcover on it, and the slipcover and the disc insert have the same cover art, which is the original movie poster. There isn't a reverse on the inside insert. As you can see, it's just a white back to it. And speaking of the back, there's a few little pictures here, and then the wordage and all that. On the inside, we have two discs. We have a 4K and a Blu-ray. Now this is typically what you're going to see with a Kino Lorber release. You may eventually not have the slipcover, but you'll get the slipcover, and then you'll have all this. You have like two discs that there's not usually, they just look just like this, and it says Kino Lorber on it and whatnot. But there is a Blu-ray and a 4K, and looking at both of them, I feel like the transfer is the same for the most part. 4K is going to have more. It is going to have more information. You got more pixels, and another thing it has is the HDR, or the Dolby Vision, the high dynamic range. So the colors look a little different in the 4K than they do on the Blu-ray. But really, both of them look really solid. I think that this is a really great transfer, a really great 4K transfer for sneakers. I haven't seen it in a long time. I don't have another version of it. I don't have a DVD. I don't have the previous Blu-ray. But this 4K looks fairly impressive to me. There are a lot of dark scenes and some shadow play that the black levels, you don't lose anything there. You can see all that really good on both the Blu-ray and the 4K. So I recommend both of them. The clarity is really nice. The texture on there's like just punching. I think the textures throughout on the clothing and on the faces and things of that nature, all of that really holds up well in this release. The skin tones look very natural to me. So I think as far as the transfer here, I think it's very authentic. I think the 4K really does justice to the way this film is supposed to look, and everything looks even the film grain here is nicely resolved. The film grain's there, and you can see it if you're looking for it, but it is naturally there. It's not like overly abundant amount of film grain, so it looks very pleasing while you're watching, and it looks very much like a film because it was shot on film. So let's go ahead and rate this film on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. I'm going to give Sneakers, now this is a tough one, from 1992. I'm going to give it a 3-star rating. No, I'm going to give it a 3.5-star rating. If you were to ask me before I did a rewatch of this, I probably would have thought it was a 4-star film, but upon the rewatch, I saw some flaws in it I didn't remember, but I still enjoy the film, and I really like the cast here. And this 4K transfer from Kino Lorber is terrific. That's why I'm going to give them a 4-star review. And for their packaging, or really their release, not their packaging, because their packaging is very standard Kino Lorber, but there is something to that. Sometimes people would prefer to see the original cover art than something new that might not be as iconic or as good as the original cover art for a film. Also, recently I did another review of a different Kino Lorber release, and that was Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. Now, when I got finished editing this one, I stood up And I gave myself a 5-minute standing ovation. That's how good it is. So I would highly recommend checking that review out. It's really good. And if you would do me a favor and go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel. You don't have to do a 5-minute standing ovation, but maybe if you could give me a 5 to 10 second standing ovation for this terrific review of sneakers. And also my review at the beginning of this, where I did actually review sneakers, which can be comfortable. Depends on what I like. Sneakers generally, I usually wear them, like I was saying before, but sometimes I wear boots. But if you would do me a favor and go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel. I'm Dave Watkins. Thanks for watching.